Andrew, you are invited to this stage and also to my backyard.
Top 10 best intros ever. There's a weird psychoanalysis you could do on like the fact that you like to push the lawnmower. Anyways, Nicholas, that presentation was great. I've actually got some comments on the Ford company, so maybe this could be a Ford company kind of oriented morning we're going to have. I love the theme of this conference, that it's imagine it, see it, and do it. I think do it is the most important thing. We spent a lot of time talking about changes, and is it good, is it bad, are we afraid, how do we posture? But to be able to really talk about action makes a lot of sense. For the first time, I get to be in a vision track, and I'm not going to talk about technology. I'm going to talk about, I think, something that at one level is obvious but is worth mentioning. And it's really all about how we can mirror human relationships when we think about engaging with people. Because I think one of the biggest opportunities for our industry is the fact that we're having these really serious conversations with our participants all the time. And if we think a little bit differently about those, maybe we can build more trust, maybe we can build more relevance. So this is Scott Monty. Scott Monty actually ran the social media group at Ford Motor Company for I think like 15 years. We had him keynote at our Vision Critical Client Summit last year. He had this quote that is really kind of the basis of this talk I had that I thought was interesting, which is a great quote. And there's a video of him giving it, and he does a much better job than just this one quote. But he's saying, technology continues to change. And it's been changing for so long, and I think a lot of marketers don't realize that people have not changed. And in our lifetime, technology isn't going to change in such a huge, significant way that it's going to totally change our patterns. Maybe in my kid's lifetime or their kid's lifetime it will slowly evolve and change. And I think that's something that we have to remember and take seriously. So I'm a big market research fan. I founded Vision Critical 15 years ago. I feel like I definitely have kind of earned a seat at the market research table. And I have that abundance view. I don't feel like it's doom and gloom. I feel like we've got a great opportunity ahead of ourselves. But I think to make that opportunity work, we have to sort of deal with sort of the elephant in the room, which from my perspective is when I look at the research methods that were developed in the 30s and how people continue to push those methods forward, and our quest to have quality information, our quest to have really valid insights and insights that people that have no bias associated with them has caused people to sort of put these lab coats on and have a very different sort of view about that respondent, that participant. And I don't think that's necessarily a natural view to have. I think it's better to have a view that mirrors the other relationships you have in your life. So if you think about all the relationships you have, if I think about my wife and how our relationship goes, it kind of ebbs and flows. If I think about the coworkers I work with, where I actually ran into a bunch of people, like I'm sure you're all catching up with friends. It's the cool thing about coming to this event. You're all running into people, you're giving people hugs, you're catching up with them, you're picking up the conversation where it left off last time. Maybe you're having a serious conversation about business, about opportunities to collaborate together, and then you're flipping back to having a really good, positive moment, or with the customer. They're always the same. Anyone that you have a meaningful relationship with, where you've got a certain degree of trust you've built, people that you actually care about, you have this ebb and flow. There's this high and low. People that are, we all have acquaintances that are maybe, that are really fun people, but with not a lot of substance, or people that are super serious all the time and they're kind of downers. Those are people that, they're acquaintances, but you don't grow strong bonds with those people. Those are not people that you really kind of want to have a significant relationship. And I always like to try and draw a parallel. So I'm going to try and draw a fairly bizarre parallel, but if you stick with me, it might make sense. So us guys that are married, sometimes we have friends that have this app on their phone called Tinder. So I don't know if anyone wants to admit they have Tinder on their phone in this room, but some people probably do. I see one hand back there. And so if you think about the way that even Tinder works, like Tinder kind of mirrors this perfectly for market research, I think. So I went on the website and I found this website that was giving people tips on Tinder, the do's and don'ts of Tinder. So they're saying don't call her baby or doll or pet names, think that sup will suffice, or immediately ask to hook up. Do pull interesting things from their profile, make a compliment, or ask a question, actually make that person feel like they matter. And I think the chart on the side is kind of funny because it's like maybe it's a market researcher doing Tinder because he's like, I made a graph on how well this conversation's going. So you flip that over to market research do's and don'ts, it's sort of the same in a really bizarre way, right? It's don't call her a respondent. Don't think that you'll be entered into a draw will suffice. And don't immediately ask them to fill out grid questions. Basically, people are sort of swiping left and right to decide whether they want to, while we're getting messaged, while we're getting invitations, and you're deciding what you're going to click on. It's not really that different. So we got to have that same mindset. I think whoever's successful at marketing and doing well on Twitter, maybe, on Tinder, maybe has a job in market research and engaging participants. I'll leave it at that. This can get really inappropriate if I continue. But I think you see where I'm going. And so some of the ways I was thinking about this is if you think about this axis where you've got sort of serious and light conversations, and then this sort of happy, sad side as a non-market researcher. These are maybe the wrong words, but the point is that you have these circles. These circles are constantly, this is fluid, these are constantly moving. You're not always having the best of times, but usually you're actually in the middle of the crosshairs at some point. And if you think about, again, all those relationships you have with other people you care about, you're in those crosshairs, and that's why you have that trust that you've created, because of the sort of struggle we all go through. And if you counter that to marketers, marketers are always all about surprise and delight. It's really good times. This is why marketing message is so saturated, because there is no connection, there is no struggle. And not that I'm suggesting marketers give tons of bad news, but even if you think about the fallout from the last economy collapse and the auto industry, there were some marketing campaigns that really pushed into that upper right quadrant, and that were probably pretty successful. And I think they can learn something. And if I look at our world sits on the serious line. We spend all of our time right here in the middle, where we want to make sure we're just having a serious conversation. It's not biased at all. We don't want to do anything that might upset the apple cart, because we just want to get our feedback and get out of there. And that's great. I think that's important. The data that you need to be able to help drive decisions for yourself or your customers is right. But you have to invest in those other conversations to be able to get that data back. The same way how when you go outside today and you talk to someone who you'd love to work with, you're probably not going to say, we want to do your project, and I think this is the right methodology, and I think this is going to be the price. You're going to have a different conversation. You're going to slow it down. You're going to try and have a personal relationship with that person. You're going to create this connection of trust. And that might happen in a few different ways. And that's a hugely powerful thing. Why are we not doing that in how we think about engaging participants? It's something I think we should all take seriously. This presentation I don't know what's going on with this slide. We'll just keep going. Here we go. And I think customers, the other side thing I want to talk about is that customers are more and more powerful every day. And they're recognizing that. And sort of, I always say, like, the jig's up. People know that I'm not just what I have in my wallet and the amount of money I have to spend. The weight I leave with my credit card is significant. I know that's worth something. And in the future, that'll become more and more powerful and something that I can own. My opinions are worth a lot. And my attention, because everyone's vying for my attention. And in exchange for that, I don't just want products and services I care about. I want social clout. I want to be educated. I want to be entertained, or I want to learn more about myself. And I think the company that does this the best, I'm not sad to say, but it's interesting, I think is LinkedIn. Like, I'm not looking for a job at all, yet I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. They do a great job of pulling me in because they're hitting all of these, I'd say, I can't think of a lot of other companies that are getting kind of all nines across the board here. And that, at least for me, they're very good at showing me kind of social clout where I sit. They're very good at surfacing educational information for me. They're okay at giving me some entertainment value. And they're amazing at quantified self, because that's what they're all about. The amount of charts and information they can give you of how you rank and compare to other people like you and other people in your network. And this is a company that's all about helping people recruit and get jobs. But they realize that in order to actually push that value, they have to do more. So at Vision Critical, we're asking ourselves the question to say, every single time a community member has an engagement, can we deliver on one of those four? Can we give people something more on one of those four themes, so that when you finish, there's a give forget. Every single time that you finish, you feel like you actually got something. You got something of value. I mean, the nice thing for us with having communities is that we're talking to that person over and over again. So if we want to teach them something in a category they're interested in, we could teach them that 3-4 questions at a time in little small increments. But you want to have that feeling of self-worth. I want to have that feeling that this is a serious thing I'm involved in, and I'm definitely helping a company I care about, because when we do the research on research, that always comes out. It always comes out that, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I can influence a brand I care about. But we could do such a better job if we could really push on delivering the message and building that trust and thinking about these kinds of things. And the good news for all of us is that people aren't robots. We're social animals. We have this yearning to belong, to be a part of something. People want to have that sense of membership. They want to have a sense of feeling like they have a certain amount of influence. They're like things that can be integrated into their everyday, into their routines. And again, I think that's why we're seeing success with communities and with a lot of access panels that routinely are engaging people, because people want that. And any ways that we can build shared emotional connections, I think, is important. So just a couple more points. And again, this comes back to that ebb and flow. That it's something that's, I feel like it's like a bad Jerry Seinfeld joke, because Jerry Seinfeld always sort of talks about things that are very obvious, but he makes them very funny. I think this is something that is hugely obvious, but is something that's very small, but can be hugely impactful if we all take it really seriously. So, and I think we can have pretty exciting outcomes, and the data speaks for itself. This is a study that we did that we presented at MRIA a few weeks ago. Andrew Grenville, who's our Chief Research Officer, he authored this study, so if you have questions about this, he's definitely the one to ask. But what we did is we had some questions that we asked to a bunch of specific types of people that were in a specific category. We asked those questions, and we asked them again a year later. They were pretty safe questions, and we found that when we talked to the community members, we had a 10% difference. And when we talked to just River Sample, we actually had a 23% difference. The community side gave us a fit inside the confidence interval we wanted to be in. And we had a bit of a challenge on the River Sample side. And again, I can get you in touch with, I can show you the data, and I can also get you in touch with Andrew if you have specific questions about this. But that's what this is all about. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about making sure that we want to have really reliable data, and you want to do that through building trust, through building relationships, through kind of mirroring the great relationships that you have with people here, with your colleagues. If we can use some of those lessons, I think we can make sure that we have community members or research participants that are standing by, that when you actually ask them to participate, are ready and willing to give you their participation, their opinions, their attitudes, access to their cell phones, connect in through their social media, all the crazy things we need to do in the future to be able to be successful, because we know we have to integrate so much. So if we can do all those, I think that we can collect really good data, and at the end of the day, help make the right decisions. So that's all I had. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, guys. Who will be the first? No, this is a picture. Comments? No? It was so clear. Well, thank you for your presentation, and